Parsha is Parshas Korach, and we're going to do the Zera Shimshon. We're on Daf Kuf Tzadik Aleph, and we're going to do the first os, the first section in the Zera Shimshon and Parshas Korach. So he begins, Vayikach Korach, with the first pasuk in the Parsha, that Korach took, meaning he took himself to start a machlokas. He took people in to join a machlokas against the leadership of Moshe and Aaron. Yisib Medrash, it is stated in the Medrash Tanchuma, Ubapirish Rashi, and Rashi's commentary brings it down, Shekorach cholak al tzitzis mezuzah, that Korach argued with Moshe about the two mitzvos of tzitzis and mezuzah. And now here is a summary of the argument. Talis shel shar minim chut echad potra. So Korach instructed his followers to join him in wearing a garment that was completely made out of the techelis wool. The wool dyed with the techelis color. And then he came to Moshe and he said, Talis shel shar minim, if a person's wearing a garment of some other colored wool, one string of techelis will be sufficient for that whole garment. This garment that's completely made out of shekula techelis, which is completely made out of techelis, lo tiftoras atzma, does it not exempt itself? Meaning his argument was that this completely techelis garment should not require the one string of techelis that regular non-techelis garments require. And Moshe, of course, answered and said, no, even that garment, even your completely techelis garments require the chut of techelis, the techelis thread and the strings. And so they were able to mocked Moshe Rabbeinu about this decision. V'chein, and similarly, the mezuzah, regarding the mitzvah of mezuzah, they said, shtei parshios poteros potros osa, two parshios from the Torah on a scroll can fulfill the mitzvah, can exempt a person and fulfill the mitzvah for his entire house, just the two parshios. Bias mole svarim, what if I have a house full of svarim? Then should that need a mezuzah? And Moshe Rabbeinu said, yes, that house needs a mezuzah too. And again, Korach used this as an opportunity to try to discredit Moshe Rabbeinu and to say, well, that's absurd, that's ridiculous, that you must not understand the mitzvos correctly that you're receiving from Hashem, because that's not possible that you have to put a mezuzah on the door of a room or a house full of svarim. Kasha, this is difficult. The ha'ikar machlukoso haya, because his main argument was bishvil kinoso al nesius elitzafon ben Uziel. His main argument was that Moshe appointed Elitzafon ben Uziel to be the nasi, the leader of the Kahas family, and Elitzafon ben Uziel was the son of the youngest member of the four brothers of Kahas. Kahas was the son of Levi. Levi had Gershon, Kahas, and Merari. And Kahas had four sons, Amram, Yitzhar, Chevron, and Uziel. And Uziel, as the youngest of the four sons, he had a son named Elitzafon. And Moshe promoted and appointed Elitzafon to be the nasi over the entire Kahas family. Korach, Moshe and Aaron, of course, were the sons of Amram, the oldest son. Korach was the son of the second of the brothers, Yitzhar. So Korach felt that, of course, this position was due to him as the eldest son of the next son in the line, after Moshe and Aaron were Amram's sons, and they were appointed to the high positions that they were appointed to, the great leadership roles that they were given. Next in line should have been Korach in Korach's way of thinking. And yet Moshe appointed Elitzafon, and Korach argued about this. Korach viewed this as a tremendous mistake. Moshe Pirish Rashi Sham, as Rashi explained. Ma inyan nisiusa shel Elitzafon l'shtei mitzvos elu. And what connection is there between the leadership that was given to Elitzafon to the two mitzvos of tzitzis and mezuzah? That's the Zera Shimshon's question that he wants to understand, because on the one hand, we're told that by Rashi and by the Midrashim that Korach's the real root, the real fundamental cause of Korach's revolt was the fact that he was passed over by Moshe and wasn't given the leadership role that he thought he deserved to be the Nasi of the family of Kahas, the family of Levium of Kahas. And instead it was given to Elitzaphan, this younger relative of the youngest of the four brothers and the older generation. And that was the real cause. And yet we're also told that Korach made an issue about Moshe's answers regarding tzitzis and mezuzah. So what's the connection, and how do these things articulate together? V'yesh lomar, and we can say shehatam hu, that the reason is lefi shekorach hayu yoser chacham mimenu. Korach felt that he was a greater sage, a greater scholar, and a wiser person than Elitzaphan. V'hayanami godol, and he was also older. Shahaya ben Yitzhar, because he was a son of Yitzhar, shehu sheni la'amram, who was the second brother. First there was Amram, as we said, and then there was Yitzhar. V'Elitzaphan haya ben Uziel, and Elitzaphan was a son of Uziel, shehu revi la'amram. He was the fourth brother. Again, as we said, the four sons of Kahas were Amram and Yitzhar and Chevron and Uziel. And so Elitzaphan was way down the line, and Korach could not understand why Elitzaphan got appointed instead of himself. V'nesius zeh hayaroi leKorach, and this appointment to the leadership of the Kahas family should have gone to Korach. Elishemoshe asa nasi Elitzaphan, but Moshe went and made Elitzaphan the nasi. B'tzivoy HaKadosh Baruch Hu, according to the command of Hashem. Because Hashem knew, and it was only because of Hashem's command, it wasn't Moshe's unilateral decision. Hashem knew that Elitzaphan was ro'oi yoser, was more appropriate, more fit for this leadership role, and so therefore he told Moshe to appoint him. Umotza makom lachlok dafka al shtei mitzvos elu, and Korach found the opportunity to create a disagreement about these two specific mitzvos of tzitzis and mezuzah, shelefi hanireh, because it looks, according to the pshat hakasuv of the simple reading of the psukim in the Torah, it looks nitztavinu b'tzitzis, that we were commanded to do the mitzvah of tzitzis, kedei lizkor es kol mitzvos Hashem, in order to remember all of the mitzvos of Hashem. Uva mezuzah, and we were commanded to do the mitzvah of mezuzah, kedei lahagein aleinu, in order to provide a kind of spiritual protection for ourselves. V'chein amru zichron levracha, and this is what Chazal said, she'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem said, kosuv shemi al psachecha, write my name on your doorposts, right? Write these psukim bearing my name and other parts of these psukim from the Torah, put that on your doorpost. And you do not have to be afraid from mazikin. V'haremez, and the hint to this, b'milas mezuzos, actually can be found in the word mezuzos, zaz moves, which can be broken up, and also the letters moved around a little bit to mean zaz, that it moves away, moves, death. So in the word mezuzos itself, we see the idea of something that protects us from death, that pushes harm and death away from us. V'kra kasamich, and the pasuk itself also puts together, when the Torah and Sefer Devarim, and this is referring to the second paragraph of Shema, the Hayim Shemoah, right after the Torah mentions the mitzvah of mezuzah, Kasamich, it puts right next to that Laman Yirbu Yemechem, in order that your days should be increased. So there's plenty of support for the idea that the mitzvah of mezuzah is to protect us, and we're going to see how that influenced Korach's thinking here. The Korach choshev sheHaKadosh Baruch Hu amar leMoshe sheyikchu tcheles al bigdeihem. Korach thought that Hashem had said to Moshe, you should take one string of techeles on your garments, lefachos chut echad, at least one string. Not that he said to him, dafka, only one string, but at least one string. Moshe Amar HaKasuv, as it says in the Torah, in the paragraph of Tzitzis, hakanaf psil, that you should put on the corner a psil techeles, a thread of the blue dyed wool, of the techeles dyed wool. Va'achar kachosif, and afterwards then the Torah continues, Uri'isim oso, uzachartem v'chule, and you'll see this, Korach assumed, you'll see this thread of the Techeles, and you'll remember all of the mitzvos. The Shmamina that Korach thought you could learn from this, Ikar ha-mitzvah hi ha-zechira, that the entire theme, the main point of the mitzvah of tzitzis was remembering and using it as a reminder to remember the commandments of Hashem. And so therefore we learn out talis kula techeles, that if a person wears a garment which is completely techeles, then that garment will help him remember the mitzvos even more. Because if it wasn't for this, meaning if it wasn't that the blue techeles thread that we were being told, okay, put a minimum of one thread on your garment, and that will help remind you, lo lichtov uri'isimo so zachartem. Then, according to Korach's thinking, the Torah shouldn't have talked about that psil techeles and then said uri'isimo so, and you're going to see it was zachartem, and you're going to remember. Achar hakanaf psil techeles, and that was said right after it mentioned the thread of techeles on the corner. Shezehu dover haba afilu min halavan levado, because the zechira, if it wasn't intimately connected to the psil techeles, as Korach assumed, the color techeles, then a person could remember the mitzvos from the white itself. Kisha adam yilbash talis, when a person puts on a talis. What he's saying is if a person wears, as we do today, unless a person wears techeles, if a person wears a talis and it just has the white strings and there's no techeles on it, we can also remember the mitzvos, because we know, of course, that the knots and the strings themselves add up to taryag mitzvos. They are a way of indicating to us, reminding us about the 613 mitzvos. So since that the white itself could remind us of the tzitzis, according to Korach, the fact that the Torah told us where the psil techeles on the kanaf, put the techeles thread on the corner, and then talked about uri'isimo so zachartem, and you'll see it, and you'll remember the mitzvos. Therefore, Korach, in his own mind, thought it's clear that the techeles is what's significant, and it's the techeles that reminds us. And the idea of one thread was only being given as a minimum, lefachot, at least one thread. But if I have more, if my whole garment is techeles, then of course I'm yotze, and I don't need to add a string of techeles on the strings on the corners. That was Korach's reasoning. And so too, when it comes to the mitzvah of mezuzah, lo hayelo lichtov leman yirbu yemechem. Korach thought the Torah shouldn't have specifically said, after mentioning the mitzvah mezuzah, that this is in order, you should do this in order to increase your days. Elavadai lahodianu, but definitely in Korach's way of thinking, this was to teach us, to make us know, shelafachot, that at least tzarich sheyichtov shtei haparshios. At the very least, you have to have these two parshios on your doorpost. Omnam, however, im Yosef lichtov od yoser, if a person wants to write more parshios, write more psukim from the Torah, harishus biyado, then the person has permission to do so. But tavu lo shmira yoser me'ula, and he will get even a higher level of effectiveness from his shmira, from his being guarded by this. And this is actually the opposite from what Moshe understood from his communication from Hashem. That on the talis we require specifically one thread. Moshe understood that what Hashem was saying was, whatever the color of your garment is and whatever the colors are that you're dealing with, on the strings on each corner you need one thread of techeles, and this does not change even if the garment is completely made of techeles. Uva mezuzah, and regarding of the mezuzah, dafka osan shtei parshios. Moshe understood that Hashem was saying, I want these two specific parshios on the doorpost. Not, I want these, but if you add a lot more, that would be even better. No, these are the two parshios that Hashem was commanded to be on the doorpost. So Moshe was listening to and hearkening to and following meticulously what Hashem said. And Korach was using his own kind of logic and understanding to try and, so to speak, outsmart Moshe and say, no, Moshe, you can't be right because what you're saying doesn't make sense. it should be different than that. You must be misunderstanding what Hashem is saying to you without realizing that Moshe was following exactly what Hashem said, and it was Korach's reasoning and logic that took him off the derech, so to speak. It took him away from what Hashem had actually commanded. Vahashta, and now Asi Shapir, this is the third paragraph in the second column. Vahashta Asi Shapir, and now it comes out very clear. Now we can understand clearly. Shelo malu libo lachlok ala kadosh baruch hu. Korach never intended to argue against Hashem and say, I don't believe in Hashem, or I don't believe Hashem gave the mitzvos. She'im kain, because if so, lama cholek al shtei parshios elu. If that were the case, if he was trying to say we shouldn't follow Hashem or we shouldn't follow Hashem's mitzvos, then why did he make an issue about the two parshios of tzitzis and mezuzah? Bilvad only. Why did he only have a problem with those two? Hayilo lachlok al kol Torah. If he really truly wanted to revolt against Hashem, chas v'shalom, he should have come and said, let's not follow any mitzvos. Why was he specifically focused on only the two commandments of tzitzis and mezuzah? Ela lefi sheshtei mitzvos elu, but it was because these two mitzvos, enam lichaora mitzvos gemuros, they did not appear certainly to Korach to be complete mitzvos, meaning they didn't appear to be things that Hashem was commanding for their own sake. Ella litovasan shel Yisrael. Rather, Hashem was saying, I want to give you good advice to benefit you, to benefit the Jewish people. Kedei sheyizkaru ha-mitzvos. He gave tzitzis in order to help us remember the mitzvos. Ukedei sheyu nishmarim. And he gave us mezuzah in order for us to be protected. So again, Korach, in his own kind of mistaken logic, thought to himself, these aren't mitzvahs like other mitzvahs. Hashem commanded us, for example, to keep Shabbos because there's an intrinsic value in keeping Shabbos. That's a real mitzvah, mitzvah gemura. But tzitzis and mezuzah, which are the two that Korach selected to make an issue about, he did so because he thought these are more like good advice from Hashem. Not mitzvos, but good advice from Hashem. Hashem is saying, let me help you and give you a tip, give you a pointer, give you a mnemonic device. In the case of the tzitzis. These tzitzis, if you wear them, will remind you about keeping the mitzvos. And this mezuzah will protect you and help guard you. Mishum hachi, because of this, meaning because he had that interpretation in his mind, Motza Mokum Lomar, he found an opening, a place to say, Shintiya Hashmira Vazachira Yoser Gedola. He found a place to say that if the remembering and the guarding could be even more, if we could do things to increase it, Tvei Odif, this would be even better. Ubevadai Lohivin Moshe Kavanos HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore he said that certainly Moshe must not be understanding the real true intent of Hashem, Be'elu HaMitzvos, in these two mitzvos, V'ta'a Bisfaraso, and he clearly made a mistake in his reasoning. So just to pause here, what the Zera Shimshon has done is to show us that we should pay particular care to the medrash that Rashi brings down, the medrash Tanchuma, that Korach made an issue about the two mitzvahs of tzitzis and mezuzah, because that tells us, number one, don't think for a moment that Korach was trying to tell the Jewish people, don't follow the mitzvos, don't follow Hashem. Absolutely not. Korach was saying, of course we're following Hashem. Of course we're going to do the mitzvahs of Hashem. It's Moshe who he was questioning. It was a revolt against Moshe and Moshe's leadership, and specifically the two mitzvahs that Korach chose were examples that Korach thought Moshe had misinterpreted, misunderstood the commandments from Hashem. So he was ta'a bisfaraso. He made this mistake because of a whole process of logical reasoning that ignored the fact that Hashem specifically told and shared specific information with Moshe, and Moshe communicated that specific information, and whether or not the logic of it in Korach's mind, or anyone else's mind for that matter, made sense was not the issue, was essentially irrelevant. It's irrelevant how our own human logic understands a mitzvah. Moshe's responsibility was to transmit and communicate the mitzvahs exactly as he received them from Hashem, and that's what he did in the case of tzitzis, by saying even if you wear a full garment of techelis, you still have to have the thread, the single thread on each corner. And regarding mezuzah, even if you have a room or a house full of svarim, full of sifrei Torah, you still have to take the two specific parshios that Hashem commanded for mezuzah and put them on the doorpost to fulfill the mitzvah of mezuzah. Continuing now, the bottom paragraph in the second column. Ukemochen, hayasover, and similarly, Korach thought, sheta be'inyan minoi hanasi. He thought that Moshe Rabbeinu made another mistake in the appointment of the leader to the Kahas family. SheHaKadosh Baruch Hu amalo. Korach thought that Hashem had said to Moshe, sheyimne nasi echad mi b'nei mishpachas aviv, that Hashem had said to Moshe, you choose, pick a person to be the leader of your father's family. Umemela mashma shehagadol roihu dafka liyos nasi v'lo hakaton mimenu. And if that's what Hashem said, if Hashem had said to Moshe, you pick the appropriate person, then of course Moshe should have picked the elder and the one, as we said, Korach, the son of the next brother after Amram. No, that's Yitzhar. And so Moshe should have picked Korach. Omnam. However, Lefi ha'emes, according to the truth, Gam biyos. Omnam Lefi ha'emes, sorry, turning over. However, just as we saw in the case of Kol Hatalis Techeles, in the case of the Techeles that was the talis that was completely made of Techeles, in Kol Zet Tzivoy Hamakam Dafka B'chut Echad V'lo B'chol HaBeged. Moshe followed the specific commandment of Hashem to put one chut of Techeles on every garment, not to wear a full garment of Techeles, but even a full garment of Techeles requires the single thread. The theme of the Zera Shimshons explanation here is that we follow the path of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is listen to what Hashem is communicating, accept it, as we say, Naseh v'nishma, we will do exactly what Hashem is saying, and then we'll learn about it to understand it, but we don't apply our own reasoning and logic as Korach did, which led him completely astray and took him in a direction away from what Hashem really wanted.